Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Hinata and Anko Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. A knock on the door sounded throughout the Hokage's office. Hiruzen looked up from a stack of papers on his desk. Come in. The door to his office opened and Nara Shikaku walked in. The Jonin commander bowed his head. Sandaime-sama, I hope you are well. He greeted. Shikaku, no need to be so formal. Hiruzen chuckled as he gestured forward. Have a seat. How are you today? Doing well, Shikaku said as he took a seat in the chair in front of the Hokage's desk. He eyed the stack of paperwork on the Hokage's desk before he shook his head. I can see you're busy today, so I'll keep this brief. I just had one thing I wanted to talk about. No need to rush. Any break from that pile is appreciated. The Sandaime chuckled. He breathed out a poof of smoke from his pipe before speaking. What did you want to talk about? It's about the academy graduation, Shikaku said, bringing his together. More specifically, the Genin team assignments. What about them? Hiruzen asked. I already made arrangements to assign your son with Ino and Choji. I figure that'll be pleasing to you, Choza, and Inoichi. Shikaku shook his head. That's actually what I was going to bring up. I was going to request that Shikamaru get placed on a team with Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata. Hiruzen's eyes widened in response. He breathed out another cloud of smoke before his eyes narrowed on the Nara clan head. A lot of care was put into team assignments, Shikaku. Is there a reason you wish to make such a request? He asked. I do not know if you were aware of this, Sandaime-sama, but Yoshino and I have been training them alongside Shikamaru these past couple of weeks. And I have to say, I think the kids have a good chemistry together. And they complement one another. Shikaku answered. I think they'd make a rather effective Genin team. As would Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji. Hiruzen mentioned. Shikaku nodded his head. Theoretically, yes. But I also think that's partially me, Choza, and Inoichi pushing for that trio to be made again. The Sandaime's eyebrow raised slightly. I mean, the three of us want to remake another, Ino Shika Cho, like our team was. And that's why we've been pushing it. The Jonin commander admitted. But I'll confess that I don't think the chemistry is like ours. While Shikamaru and Choji are friends, they don't appear to get along with Ino much, or at least Ino and Shikamaru don't get along. He shrugged his shoulders. Which I'll acknowledge that being on a team with each other would probably improve their working relationship, but it's nothing like what Shikamaru already has with Naruto and Hinata. I mean, I play relationships into account when assigning teams, but I don't try and simply put friends together based solely on teamwork. Hiruzen said, his eyes narrowing further on Shikaku. You know that as well. There's more to your request, is there? Shikaku was quiet for a moment. He sighed as he brought his right hand to the back of his head. I've been watching those two interact with my son. And I've seen them make some noticeable changes to his personality and work effort. He admitted. Did you know Shikamaru got me to teach Naruto the shadow clone jutsu? You taught Naruto how to make shadow clones? Hiruzen asked, eyebrows raising. You are aware of the risks that technique can pose to its user. Any reason why you would teach him that? Shikaku nodded his head. Because Shikamaru argued for it and he made sense. He was very concerned about whether or not Naruto could even learn the regular clone jutsu and wanted me to help him practice. A chuckle escaped his lips. Shikamaru's a pretty sympathetic person, but it's been quite a bit since I've seen him try and help someone like that. And Naruto and Hinata are pushing him as well, making him work harder in training and not just rest the entire time. Hiruzen stared at Shikaku, processing his information. The two were quiet for a few seconds before Shikaku cleared his throat and pulled himself out of the chair. That's all I wanted to discuss. I've seen those two make some good improvements with my son that Yoshino and I are impressed with, and I think he can help them just the same. And I think it'd be a waste to not pair them together and see exactly how much stronger they can grow together. He stated. It's close to the deadline, so I do not know if I can easily change my team plans, Shikaku. Hiruzen admitted with a sigh. However, I will consider it. That's all I ask, the Jonin commander said, nodding his head, as he turned around. Thank you for your time, Sandaime-sama. As Shikaku walked out of the office, Hiruzen turned his attention to a clock in the room. It's about time for the academy exam to begin, he noted to himself. He then turned his head back to the piles of paperwork and sighed. Great. More to think about. That would just be more work. The Sandaime returned to his work, but in the back of his head, he kept hearing Shikaku's words. Something told him that today was going to be a long day. Yumino Iruka glanced at the clock in his classroom, reading 9 o'clock. He then turned his attention towards the students sitting down at their desks. Everyone was quiet. It was a rare moment to not have at least a single student making some type of noise, but today was not a normal day, it was the day of their graduation exam. It was comforting to the academy instructor to see that every student at least understood the seriousness of this date and exam. Ahem. He cleared his throat, drawing attention towards himself. The graduation exam will be divided into 3 parts. The first part is a written exam based on the information that I, and the other academy instructors, have taught you over the years of basic shinobi theory and history. The second is a test on your efficiency with weapons. The final test will be an exhibition of the 3 required jutsu: substitution, transformation, and clone jutsu. Does anyone have any questions? Everyone remained quiet. Iruka waited a few more seconds before nodding his head in understanding. Then let's not waste any time, shall we? Iruka said as he reached into desk and pulled out a collection of papers. For the written exam, you are required to answer at least 70% of the questions correct. You will have 1 hour. As Iruka began to pass out the papers, Naruto turned his head to the table behind him, facing both Shikamaru and Choji. The two nodded their heads at him and Shikamaru gave him a thumbs up, which Naruto quickly returned. He then turned his attention to Hinata, who was sitting in the chair to his left. Good luck, Hinata, he whispered, a large grin on his face. Why you as well, Naruto-kun? She whispered back with a smile of her own. A few more seconds passed as Iruka finished passing out the papers. The Chunin moved back to the desk at the front of the room and turned his attention to all the students. His eyes then focused on Naruto, who was staring intently at one of the first questions. You don't need to get 100%, Naruto. Just do your best, Iruka told himself. As if on cue with his thoughts, Naruto penciled down an answer and moved on to the next question. A smirk developed on Iruka's face. You got it this time. Naruto was practically beaming as he made his way back into the academy classroom. The class had just finished the second exam and he shown excellency with both kunai and shuriken, impressing the exam proctor. The first exam, admittedly, could have gone better, but he knew that he passed it. Combined with the rush of adrenaline from the second exam, he was now more confident than ever that he was finally going to become a shinobi. It is now time for the third and final test. Please, come follow me out of the room and over to the examination area when I call your name. After you finish, whether you pass or fail, you will be asked to leave the building. You can wait for friends outside if you must, Mizuki announced. He then looked down at his papers for a brief moment before looking back to the students. First up is Aburame Shino. Shino nodded his head before getting out of his chair and walking forward, following Mizuki out of the room. Just one more exam then we can go home and sleep, Shikamaru said with a yawn as he laid his head down. Hell no. We're celebrating when we get out, Naruto stated, grinning. We're gonna have a victory bowl at Ichiraku's ramen. That sounds good, but I won't be able to go, Choji admitted. It's tradition for when an Akamichi graduates from the Shinobi Academy and becomes a genin to have a celebratory feast, so I have to go to that. A dreamy sigh escaped his lips as he almost started to drool. Both my mom and dad are cooking for it, so I can't wait to taste it. That sounds like so much fun. Hinata said, smiling. Her eyes dropped slightly as she brought her hands together, her voice dropping to a whisper. I wish my family did something like that. Naruto turned to the Hyuga. Did you say something, Hinata? A blush developed on her cheek as she shook her head. And no, nothing important. Akamichi Choji. Mizuki called out as he came back into the room. Hinata yelped, having been interrupted. Everyone then turned their head towards Choji. Really? That fast? Did Shino already finish? Naruto asked. Probably. Shino's good and he doesn't waste time. He probably did it in near record time. Shikamaru shrugged his shoulders. He then turned his head to his childhood best friend and gave him a thumbs up. You really don't need it, but good luck, Choji. The Uzumaki gave the same thumb ups to him. Yeah, good luck, Choji. Do your best. Hinata added, looking back up to him. The Akamichi smiled as he stood up from his chair. Thanks, guys. Good luck as well. Choji left the room and all remained quiet. A few more minutes passed by before Mizuki returned to the room and called for the next student. Names continued to be read. More and more students continued to head to the examination room. A certain tension and nervous feelings seemed to grow in the room with the various students. Amongst her friends, Hinata was the only one to seemingly feel it. As Naruto looked towards the examination room with confidence and Shikamaru continued to try and take a nap, the Hyuga heiress sat quietly looking down at the ground, fiddling with her fingers. Hyuga Hinata. Mizuki read off. Eep. She gasped, pulling her head up. Naruto turned his attention back to his friend. A smile developed on his face. Don't worry, Hinata. You're gonna do great, you know. Hinata blushed in response. Before she could reply, Shikamaru spoke up. He's right. You're a great ninja and you know the 3 jutsu. Thank you. Hinata finally looked at her 2 friends, smiling at both of them as her blush reddened. I'll do my best. Good luck to you two too. Hinata walked back, following Mizuki. Before too long, the academy instructor was back, reading off a new name. That was quick. Naruto grinned. She must have done great. Naturally. She knows her stuff. Shikamaru said with a yawn. You're the one I'm worried about. Huh. Naruto blinked in response. Why? A snort escaped the Nara's lips. Because you're an idiot. Oi. Naruto nearly yelled. I'm not. And you can bet on me passing, damn it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Shikamaru shook his head, chuckling. I know you're gonna pass. You're probably gonna do a better job than me, to be honest. Naruto's eyes widened for a moment before he shook his head, grinning back. Yeah, only cause you'll be lazy. If you put the effort into it, you'd get the best grade in class. Shikamaru snorted in response. The 2 friends remained quiet as more students continued to get called back. After more waiting, Mizuki returned to the room to read off the next name, Nara Shikamaru. Alright, let's get this troublesome exam over with. Shikamaru groaned as he forced himself out of his chair. Good luck, Shikamaru. Naruto said. Shikamaru waved back in response as he walked out of the room. Sitting alone now, Naruto began to finally feel the pressure of the exam. A sigh escaped his lips as his eyes moved back and forth between the clock in the room to the examination door, watching as Mizuki came back in to call back more and more students. I did fail it 2 times before. I could fail this thing again. Naruto shook his head, forcing that thought to the side. Hell no. After all the work I've put into this, I can't fail. Not this time, damn it. His mind then flashed images of Hinata's, Shikamaru's, Choji's, Shikaku's, and Yoshino's faces, all of whom were looking at him with confidence. He tightened his fists. They all believe in me, so I know I can do this at this time. Uzumaki Naruto. Mizuki finally called back, a smile on his face as he looked at the blonde. About damn time. Naruto grumbled to himself as he pulled himself out of his chair. A grin developed on his face as he rushed over to Mizuki's side. Let's do this. Naruto followed the instructor as he led him into a small, open room with a large, wooden table in the center. Sitting out the chair was Iruka, alongside two other academy instructors. Mizuki walked over to the table, standing next to it. Uzumaki Naruto, please perform the 3 academy jutsus. First, the substitution jutsu. Trade places with a log that's placed in the corner of the room. Iruka requested. The blonde turned his head to the corner. His eyes focused on a small stack of logs in the corner before he turned back to the academy instructor. He gave them a smirk and vanished in a poof of smoke. A log was seen in his place while the boy was currently in the corner of the room, sitting on a different log. Without hand signs. As an academy student. Impressive Naruto. Iruka smiled in response. The other academy instructors wrote down on their papers, no seeming reaction on their faces. Very good. Now, the second jutsu, the transformation jutsu. Please turn into a copy of one of the teachers in the room. And please, do not use that stupid, sexy jutsu of yours. Iruka requested, glaring slightly. Yeah. Naruto rolled his eyes as he walked back to the center of the room. I'm not an idiot. The boy made the necessary hand sign and soon vanished in a poof of smoke. In his place stood Yumino Iruka. The man was an identical version of the academy teacher in every way. Height, body structure, and clothes were all spot on. He even got my scar just right as well. Iruka noticed, rubbing his nose slightly on instinct. He coughed a little before speaking. Great job once again, Naruto. Considering that it is me, I can tell that you did an excellent job and could probably pass off as me. I did my best. Naruto spoke in his best imitation of Iruka's voice before dispelling the jutsu, returning to his original appearance. Now, the final jutsu. Mizuki spoke up, a slight smirk on his face. The clone jutsu. Please, make as many clones as you can in the room. Naruto took the second to look at the teachers in front of them before nodding his head. A smug grin developed on his face as made the hand sign for his newly acquired jutsu. Mizuki frowned. What's he doing? Before any of the teachers could verbally react to the different hand sign, the room filled with smoke. When it cleared up, 10 clones of Naruto surrounded the boy. Each of them were all staring at the shocked faces of the teachers, grinning smugly just like the original. So, what do you think? One of the clones asked proudly. Shadow clone jutsu. Impossible. You are an academy student. There's no way you could pull that off. I can't even do that jutsu. One of the academy instructors shouted in disbelief. No, they're real. The second instructor said, shaking his head. To see a genin use the shadow clone here, unbelievable. Naruto, you just went above and beyond what we required for graduation. I can't think of any student who deserves to graduate more than you right now. Iruka informed the boy proudly as he picked up a Konoha forehead protector and tossed it to the boy. Congratulations. You are now an official genin. Naruto caught it and did not waste any second putting it on his head, replacing his goggles with the forehead protector. He ran his hand over the forehead protector, his finger tracing the Konoha insignia. Tears developed in his eyes as he looked back at the academy instructors. I'm finally a ninja. Thank you all. Just watch me, you'll see me become the greatest ninja Konoha has ever seen. Naruto declared. Iruka grinned as he watched Naruto rush out of the room. Naruto, I'll treat you to ramen when you're free. You finally did it. I'm so proud of you. Mizuki, likewise, watched Naruto leave the room with a look of disbelief on his face. He took in a deep breath, resisting the urge to shout. I knew he was improving, but he should never have been able to pass. He can't produce a single clone. But no, he had to learn the shadow clone jutsu somehow, Mizuki mentally snarled. He took in another deep breath as he tried to calm himself down. So what if he passed? That doesn't ruin my plans. It just means I have to change them a little, it doesn't matter though. In the end, I will get my scroll. Mizuki, I believe there's one final student waiting. Let her know it's her turn. Uruka requested. Ah, understood. Mizuki nodded his head as he walked over to the door. Since she's the last student of the day, do you all care if I excuse myself for the day? I had a prior arrangement with Tsubaki. Of course. We are basically wrapped up anyway. Uruka nodded his head, smiling to his friend. Tell her I say hi. Mizuki wordlessly waved goodbye to his colleagues, his mind trying to piece together a new plan. Naturally, his surname starts with A, U. Means we have to wait until basically the entire class is done. Shikamaru said, sighing. Hinata frowned in response. Don't complain too much, Shikamaru-kun. Sasuke-san just left, so Naruto-kun must be close to done. The two friends stood outside the academy entrance, waiting as patiently as they could for Naruto to finish his exam. Both were wearing their new Konoha forehead protectors, Hinata around her neck and Shikamaru tied around his left arm. The majority of the students had long gone, having left with family, friends, or on their own accord. Even Choji had left, as just as the Akamichi had mentioned, his mother and father had met him to pick him up and bring him to his graduation feast. Only a few students were still there, waiting for their family to come and meet with them. Minutes continued to pass as Shikamaru and Hinata continued to wait together. Shikamaru yawned and laid his head down to take a nap. Hinata continued to stand still, watching the door, before she too got tired and started to lay down on the ground. Hey, guess who's a genin now? Just as Hinata had laid down on the ground and Shikamaru had finally fallen asleep, the two jerked upwards at the sight of Uzumaki Naruto, sprinting from the academy doors with a forehead protector tied around his forehead. Naruto-kun, that's amazing. Hinata stated as she rushed over to him. A grin developed on her face as she stared at his forehead protector. I'm so proud of you. Just when I was finally sleeping, Shikamaru mumbled, rubbing his eyes as he walked over to his friend. You just had to be at the end of the list, didn't you? What's that supposed to mean? Naruto scowled. I didn't ask you two to wait, you know. Doesn't change the fact that we did. Shikamaru said, yawning. A smile then developed on his lips as he looked at the forehead protector. Seriously though, congrats Naruto. You're one step closer to being Hokage. Naruto's scowl disappeared and he was grinning once again. Thanks. And congrats to you both as well. You both are still free to have a victory celebration at Ichiraku's, yeah. Hinata nodded her head. I'm free. Father said I had the day off because of the exam. I'm good with that as well. If mom and dad complain that I was gone, then I'll just say I was hanging with you guys. They shouldn't complain about that. Shikamaru said, smirking. Awesome. Then let's head over there fast before the ramen gets cold. Naruto declared, stepping forward. Onward. Naruto, can you wait a second? The three newly appointed genin turned around and saw Mizuki walking out of the academy. All three looked over at the man with raised eyebrows for a second before Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Guys, give me a second. Naruto said as he ran over to Mizuki. This won't take long, so we can still get ramen in a moment. Hinata and Shikamaru nodded in understanding as they watched Naruto hurry over to Mizuki. Before he could say anything, the academy instructor gestured for him to follow. Naruto blinked for a second before he followed behind, moving to the other side of the academy and away from anyone who could overhear. So, what's up Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked as Mizuki finally came to a stop. Well, first off, I wanted to congratulate you on an amazing job, Naruto. I mean, being able to pull off the shadow clone jutsu, that's beyond impressive. Mizuki informed him, smiling. You have a bright future ahead of you if that's how you start your professional career as a ninja. Naruto's grin returned as he began to rub the back of his head sheepishly. Hey, thanks a lot Mizuki-sensei. In fact, you impressed us enough that you were nominated for a secondary exam we have here. Mizuki said, his smile widening. Naruto blinked in confusion. There's actually a secret secondary exam. Mizuki admitted as he pocketed his hands. It's only offered to one graduate each year, and only if there's someone particularly special. If the graduate passes the second exam, then you will automatically be promoted to Chunin rank. Naruto's eyes widened. For real? And you're saying I was chosen? Why? Why? Mizuki's eyes widened at the question before he shook his head, chuckling. Didn't you see everyone's faces after you performed the shadow clone jutsu? That's beyond the skill set for a genin. You showed that you are a genius to be able to accomplish that. It was between you and Uchiha Sasuke, but we all agreed you deserved the honor this year. Oh, Naruto shook his head, trying to process everything. Well then, what's the second exam? Well, you actually have to agree to participate in it before we can make it official. It's actually like a small test, in of itself. Mizuki admitted, rubbing the back of his head. It's like how you don't always get to pick your missions. When the Hokage has work for you, you must do it. Likewise with this exam, once you commit, you can't back down. You understand? Naruto nodded his head, a look of disbelief on his face. Mizuki noted the widened eyes and the surprise present, causing him to chuckle. A single good jutsu changes nothing, he's still the same idiot he's always been. The Chunin resisted the urge to grin. Everything is still going to go according to plan. It doesn't make sense. There was even a question on the written exam today. The only two ways to get promoted to Chunin is through the Chunin exam or through field promotion. The academy doesn't have the authority for this, plus, why the hell would the teachers vote for me for this thing? They hate me. There's no way they'd pick me over Sasuke. Naruto wondered, shaking his head. His eyes narrowed in on Mizuki. Something's fishy about all of this. What are you trying to do here, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto, are you okay? Mizuki asked. The question pulled Naruto away from his thoughts and back to reality. He laughed in response, forcing a grin onto his face. Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking about how I'm gonna pass this thing. Naruto stated, gripping his fists tightly. I'm ready for this next exam. I already just became a genin and I can't wait to be a chunin already. If Mizuki-sensei is really up to something, then I need to know what he's doing. And if accepting his stupid exam is the only way to find out, then I'll do it. Naruto inwardly noted. Mizuki's smile turned into a grin that almost seemed maniacal. So you'll take it? Excellent. He stated excitedly. Alright Naruto, before I tell you about the exam, let me ask you a question. What do you know about the Scroll of Seals? After his conversation with Mizuki had ended, Naruto had dragged his friends to Ichiraku's. Upon arriving, he immediately spilled the dirt on what he was just informed about. Mizuki-sensei wants you to steal the Scroll of Seals from the Hokage's office for a secret exam to become a chunin. Shikamaru asked Naruto. Naruto nodded his head, which elicited a sigh from the Nara. What a pain. That sounds completely fake. I know, right? Naruto exclaimed as he crossed his arms. There's no way the academy has the authority for that. They don't. That would mean that Mizuki-sensei is trying to get you to steal the scroll for himself. Hinata said, frowning. But why? He was our sensei for years and he is a loyal Konoha shinobi. Why would he try to steal it? Shikamaru shrugged his shoulders. Guess he's not that loyal. He then turned his head to Naruto. So, what are you going to do about this? At this moment, Tsuki came forward and delivered 3 bowls of ramen for the new graduates. Naruto immediately started to dig into his bowl rapidly. Hinata giggled in response while Shikamaru proceeded to shake his head. Only when the Uzumaki was finished did he continue to speak again. Well, I plan on telling old man Hokage about it. After that, I plan on taking down Mizuki personally. He admitted, a scowl developing on his face. He thought he could trick me into stealing the scroll for him, so I feel like I should be the one to take him down. But Naruto-kun, that would be dangerous. Hinata spoke up, her frown deepening. Why you shouldn't go alone? She's right, Mizuki's a chunin. You may be a ninja now, but on paper, he should be able to defeat you easily if you fought on your own. Shikamaru added. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, his scowl shifting into a frown. I guess I could ask the old man if he has anyone willing to assist me. But I personally want to take down the guy, so hopefully they won't interfere too much. Why not let us help? The Hyuga asked. Naruto blinked, staring blankly at Hinata. Hinata blushed a little at having her crush's attention so focused directly on her. She tried to speak, but no words came out. She then looked downward, her ramen bowl seeming more interesting than ever before. Why do you want to help out, Hinata? You said it yourself, it's going to be dangerous. Naruto asked. After his question, she pulled her eyes away from her food and looked up at him. She took a deep breath before she looked at him with determination present in her eyes. Mizuki-sensei may be a chunin and stronger than us individually, but if we all fought him together, we could take him out ourselves. We would just need to use teamwork. She answered. She then clapped her hands together. Please Naruto-kun, don't fight him on your own. We can help you. Naruto continued to stare at his friend in surprise for a few seconds, which only caused her to frown. After 30 seconds passed, Naruto stopped staring and smiled widely at her. Thank you Hinata. Sure, you can tag along. We can take down him together with no problem. He told her. Hinata smiled back in response, her blush getting a little darker. Naruto, you realize she said, we, right. That would also include me as well. Shikamaru pointed out, finally speaking up as he put his bowl of ramen to the side. Naruto turned to the Nara and smirked at him. You've been quiet for a bit, so didn't know if you were listening to us. Sure it's not too troublesome for you Shikamaru? Naruto asked. Shikamaru snorted in response. I mean, this whole situation is troublesome, but Hinata's right. Teamwork's the best option and I'm not going to let you two do something like that without me being there to help. Thanks. Naruto's smirk turned back into a smile. I appreciate it. And you're both right, teamwork's the best option. And together, we're going to kick his SS and personally drag Mizuki-sensei's SS right back to the old man. Speaking of the Hokage, we should really discuss this with him first though, like you said originally. The Nara noted. The blonde genin nodded. Yeah. Well, we can't waste any time. We have to hurry and talk with him, cause it's going to get closer to time for me to meet up with that lying sensei. The three new graduates paid for their meal, thanked Yuki, and hurried over to the Hokage Tower, ready to talk to the Hokage about their plan. Mizuki could not hide his grin as he rushed through the forests around Konohagakure, looking for the meeting point. Everything was going according to plan and he was one step closer to being done with Konoha. In the end, it really didn't matter if the brat passed or not, I still convinced him to steal the scroll. In the end, that demon brat is still too naive to be a proper shinobi. He noted, chuckling to himself. I still convinced him to steal the scroll for me. Now, to collect my prize. The Chunin did have a slight concern that Naruto could deny the request, as his original plan mostly relied on capitalizing on Naruto's desperation to become a genin, using that to make him go against any better judgment. He was relieved to hear the boy still stupidly believed his lie about promoting him to a Chunin. Everything was going according to plan. All that was left to do was meet up with Naruto, take the scroll from him, possibly kill him, and head off to Otogakure. Mizuki continued to move through the forests around Konoha, searching for the clearing he told the boy earlier. After a few minutes of searching, the white-haired Chunin found him at the meeting spot, holding a large scroll. Hey, Naruto! Mizuki shouted to him as he jumped down into the clearing. Naruto tensed up in response. You really did it. You got the scroll. I knew you would be able to do it. Hey, what can I say? I'm going to be Hokage after all Dadbayo. And now I'm one step closer to getting there. Naruto informed with a large grin. That is true, and you're going to make a great Hokage. Mizuki chuckled as he held out his hand. Now, Hand over the scroll to me. I can test you on one of the jutsus then. The Uzumaki shook his head, his grin widening further. No need for that, sensei. Watch this. Shadow clone jutsu. 3 shadow clones appeared in a poof of smoke standing right behind Naruto. This is crazy, I know, but the shadow clone jutsu was actually one of the jutsu in the scroll. So technically, I already passed the second test when I did the first one. Pretty awesome, sensei. Naruto informed the man in front of him. Mizuki blinked in response. He stood still for a moment, his brain taking a few extra seconds to process Naruto's words, before he chuckled again in response as he shook his head. I see. That's pretty lucky. And maybe just a little bit too convenient. Mizuki noted as he extended his hand outward further. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have to see if that jutsu is actually in the scroll to confirm that. Sure thing, Mizuki-sensei. I'll show you when we get back to Konoha, though. Naruto responded, bringing his hands behind his head. It's getting kind of late and any longer and the Hokage might actually start to need his scroll back, you know. Mizuki's eye twitched. He took in a deep breath, trying to think of an appropriate response to the boy's statement. The response he chose was to reach for the Fuma shuriken attached to his back. Hand the scroll over to me now. Mizuki shouted. Yep, we were right about all of this. Naruto bit his lip, resisting the urge to smirk. Instead, he brought his hands directly in front of his face defensively. What's going on, Mizuki-sensei? Let's just get back to Konoha, and I'll show you the scroll there. Haven't figured it out yet, Naruto. Well, then let me spell it out to you. There is no Chunin graduation exam. Mizuki shouted, spinning the shuriken in his hand in a clockwise fashion. What you did was help me steal the scroll. And now, you're going to hand it over, or else you're going to die right here. Before Naruto could even reply to his threat, Mizuki chucked the shuriken forward, causing it to fly directly at Naruto's body. Say goodbye, brat. To his surprise, the scared, nervous Naruto steadied himself and jumped out of the way of the giant shuriken. He then tossed his own, smaller shuriken at the Chunin. What? Mizuki's eyes widened as he jumped away, avoiding the blonde's weapons. That reaction time makes no sense. He should have been too shocked and scared to react. What the hell? Once again, to the Chunin's surprise, more shuriken flew at him at different angles from the forest. The white-haired man jumped out as quickly as he could but managed to still get hit by one shuriken in his side. He winced in pain for a second as his hand went to his wound. His eyes were darting all around the area while he grit his teeth. That bastard, he brought company. Mizuki's teeth grinding grew louder and louder until he turned his head back to face Naruto. Who else did you bring out here with you, brat? Naruto smirked in response. Just a few friends that were looking forward to kicking your SS with me. On cue with his words, Hinata and Shikamaru came out of hiding. They jumped down from their positions in nearby trees and landed side by side to Naruto. Hinata landed with her Byakugan activated while Shikamaru looked noticeably focused. So that's how you went about this, huh? The traitor mumbled in anger. You've been playing with me this whole time, haven't you? This is all some game to you. This is how you treat someone who said they'd promote you. Just drop it, Mizuki. Naruto shouted back, his eyes narrowing on the Chunin. There was something fishy with your offer and you even admitted that you had no intention of promoting me. This was a setup for me, so I'm just turning the tables on you. And I have some backup with me to make sure you get rightfully taken down. Mizuki's eyes moved from Naruto to Hinata to Shikamaru. He continued to grind his teeth while he tried to take a deep breath. Relax, Mizuki. It's just 3 genin. You can easily kill all 3 of them. Just calm down and focus. As he took another deep breath, his eyes widened as an idea came across to them. Or, why don't I try and have some fun when I kill them? Turn them against one another and then pick them off. Brought your best friends with you, I see. Your best friends? In the whole village, huh? Your only friends? Mizuki noted, chuckling. The genin's eyes narrowed in response, but before they could react, he continued to speak, but maybe they wouldn't be your friend if they knew the full truth about everything. He then brought his hand to his chin in exaggerated thought. Wonder if I should tell them. Truth. Shikamaru's eyes narrowed further. What are you talking about? Ever wonder why everyone hates your little blonde bestie? Mizuki asked, his chuckling turning into laughter. Because no one hates a kid for no reason, there has to be one. It's your generation doesn't know the truth, since the Sandaime made the law 13 years ago. You don't even know. But if you all did know. Law? What law? Hinata bit her lip in response. What nonsense is he going to say? What is he going to say about Naruto-kun? He's trying to psych Naruto out. Shikamaru noticed, a scowl forming on his face. Get him distracted or disturbed and somehow turn myself and Hinata against him. But how? Unlike his two friends, Naruto ended up dropping his guard. He could not help himself. Despite Mizuki trying to set him up for stealing, he was offering information that the boy always wondered about. Why am I hated? What are you talking about? What law? He asked. Hinata shook her head. Naruto-kun, ignore him. The law prevents anyone from telling your generation that you are the Kyuubi, the demon that attacked Konoha years ago. Time seemed to stop when Mizuki's words left his mouth. Hinata's and Shikamaru's eyes widened in pure shock. Naruto merely stood still, completely stunned. You've all been lied to you all your life. The Yondaime couldn't kill that damn fox. The thing was too powerful for him, so he sealed into a newborn baby to stop it. That baby was you, Naruto. It's why everyone hates you. Mizuki exclaimed, pointing at the blonde. You destroyed so much of Konoha. Civilians and shinobi alike, including Iruka's parents, died because of you. Konoha has so many damn orphans because of you. You are the reason the Yondaime is dead. Everything that happened that night is your fault, you damn demon. Naruto continued to stand frozen in time, still in complete shock. He has to be lying. That can't be. Naruto bit down on his lip, shaking his head frantically. But some of that, it would make sense, why so many of them stare at me with so much hatred, why they've always hated me, but why? It's not some lie. It makes sense. It matches everything. Everything makes sense. Shikamaru realized, his eyes widening as he turned to face Naruto. It explains his freakishly large stamina. It helps explains Naruto-kun's insane amount of chakra. Hinata realized as she turned to stare at the blonde. Single quote. Why he gets singled out by the teachers and glared at. Why he grew up alone. Why he is so hated. The two kids reached the same conclusion. The two kids turned their heads toward Naruto and stared at him for a second. Any fear or ill feelings that could have been within the two were completely eliminated the second they looked at him. Naruto-kun, you were treated so badly by the people around you and you had to deal with the fox within you, and you still wanted to be Hokage. You still wanted to fight and defend these people. To earn their respect. Naruto-kun, you are truly amazing. Hinata felt new feelings for her crush. She felt even more pride in him, more awe by his kindness and strength, and something more, something she didn't know how to describe. He should hate everyone in Konoha for everything they've done to him. And he doesn't. As a matter of fact, he actually wants to change their minds. Naruto, you are one of a kind. Shikamaru noted with a slight smirk. Naruto didn't take the news in any way like his friends. The boy continued to stand completely still. They really do deserve to hate me. Everything's my fault. I'm just a monster. He reached his conclusion. Now that the truth is out, I'm sure you all won't mind when I remove this monster from the world. Good night, demon. Mizuki shouted as he took his second Fuma Shuriken and tossed it at Naruto. The Uzumaki boy continued to stand still in shock as he stared at the oncoming shuriken. Naruto-kun. Hinata called out. Move. Damn it. Shikamaru shouted as he made a hand sign, shadow possession jutsu. Shikamaru's shadow rushed for Naruto's body. As quickly as it connected, Shikamaru ran to his right, forcing the Uzumaki to move as well. Naruto's eyes widened as Shikamaru forced him away from the Fuma Shuriken just in time. His eyes widened further as Hinata jumped in front of them, pulling out a kunai. What are you guys doing? Naruto asked, biting his lip. Before they could respond, Mizuki began to shout. Why are you helping him? Didn't you hear me? He's the damn demon who nearly destroyed the village. He killed so many Nara and Hyuga. The Chunin's voice grew louder and louder. You should both hate him. Why are you protecting a demon? You said the demon was sealed within him. That doesn't make him a demon, only a container at most. He's not the Kyuubi, Shikamaru stated sharply. Shikamaru? Naruto looked over to his lazy friend in awe. You really think that? If anything, he's a hero to the village. Hinata shouted, causing Naruto to turn towards her. He keeps the demon locked within him. Naruto-kun is the furthest thing from the Kyuubi. He's our savior who keeps it from attacking us. Hinata. Naruto's eyes started to redden slightly as tears started to form. Thank you and Shikamaru, you have to be right, So naive. Mizuki snorted. Don't think too much into this, he's the demon. And it would be wise to get away from him before you get hurt while I kill him. Immediately, Naruto turned his attention back towards Mizuki, a scowl on his face as he made a hand sign. Don't you fucking dare, he growled in response. I won't allow you touch them. Hinata and Shikamaru looked back to Naruto and gave a warm smile towards him. They then turned back to Mizuki, ready to strike. TCH, whatever. You're all dead. Mizuki roared as he tossed smaller shuriken at the academy graduates. Mizuki blinked when he saw what exactly his shuriken hit, though. Instead of the 3 individual genin, the shuriken made contact with the 3 shadow clones Naruto made earlier. In seconds, all 3 clones disappeared in a poof of smoke. All 3 genin were nowhere to be seen. They used substitution with the clones the demon made earlier, back when he was showing me the scroll. He noted. The academy instructor inside him was actually a little impressed with the skilled use of the jutsu and the quick, unnoticeable exchange. That did not change the fact that he was also extremely pissed. It's pointless to hide brats, cause I'm going to find and kill you all. He shouted. Mizuki made the necessary hand signs before turning his attention to the forest around him. Fire style. Phoenix Fire Jutsu. The Chunin breathed out a barrage of fireballs into the forest. Nearby trees caught on fire. Some trees were completely burned in seconds while others collapsed from the damage. Mizuki watched as he cleared the area around him, looking for the first sign of one of the genin. Within seconds, a group of 20 Naruto clones shot out and charged directly at the Chunin. More shadow clones. Is it seriously all you can do? You're screwed, demon brat. The traitor taunted as he dropped into his personal taijutsu stance. All Naruto clones attempted to assault the Chunin at once. He immediately went on the defensive, blocking them to the best of his abilities. Mizuki was able to avoid too many direct hits while striking back. He was able to destroy 6 of the clones after a few blows. The Konoha traitor noticed that one of the clones was not disappearing. It would keep getting up after each hit and would charge back, ready to strike with its palms. Guess that's the original demon. Weird fighting style for him, but whatever. It's not helping him any. The assault by the clones continued. As time passed, Mizuki was getting more physically tired. He started to take a few more hits than usual from the clones, including the Naruto that was striking him with his palms. Despite his weakening state, Mizuki was able to bring down the number of clones to 6. It was at this point that the Chunin noticed something very wrong with himself. What is happening to my chakra? Why can't I use it? I haven't used any since my fire jutsu. The demon shouldn't be able to do this. Mizuki groaned on the inside. He was getting slightly nervous at this new development. Then, an idea hit him of what was happening. That means, before Mizuki could continue his train of thought, he found himself completely immobilized. He couldn't move, no matter how hard he tried or struggled. Caught you. The Chunin found his head turning around on its own accord. He saw his shadow mixed with the shadow of one of the Naruto clones. At this moment, the clone dropped its transformation, revealing a smirking Shikamaru. You. The traitor hissed. Didn't notice me, did you? Or Hinata, I'm guessing. The Nara asked as he turned his head, forcing Mizuki to turn his head as well. They were now facing the Naruto that Mizuki originally thought was the original. This Naruto dropped the transformation and revealed itself as Hinata. You knew that Naruto was skilled with the Shadow Clone Jutsu, so you assumed that all 20 clones of Naruto were simply clones. It never occurred to you that 2 of those clones could have been Hinata and myself under the transformation jutsu. Shikamaru explained the tactic to the traitor. Therefore, you failed to notice that Hinata, under the guise of one of the clones, was sealing your tenketsu, and therefore sealing your chakra, with the gentle fist with each attack. You also never watched the shadows, since I was nowhere to be seen. Because of that, you are caught in my shadow possession jutsu, and you have so little usable chakra that you can't break through. Damn you all. He hissed once again. You tried to mess with me, and then mess with my friends as well. Naruto stated as he walked forward, his remaining clones following close behind. They all cracked their knuckles simultaneously. Time to show you what happens when you try and mess with us. Mizuki's screams could be heard for miles throughout the forest. Might have gotten a little carried away. Naruto laughed sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head. Mizuki was lying face down on the floor of the forest, unconscious in a pile of blood. Naruto and his clones beat down on the traitor hard. The man, while still alive, would not be waking up anytime soon. He would wake up in a few hours later probably, locked up in a cell or in a room alone with Morino Ibiki. If Mizuki was conscious, he would be praying for the former. You might have, but he deserved it. Shikamaru shrugged in response. Right. Hinata nodded her head, looking away from the traitor's battered body. Silence filled the air for a moment as Hinata and Shikamaru stared at their friend, who seemed as if he was trying to come up with some words. After a minute, he finally broke the silence. So, about what Mizuki told us, Naruto started, looking downward slightly. Naruto, if you think we are going to think any differently of you just because of the Kyuubi, then you are stupid enough that you should have been the dead last. Shikamaru told the boy bluntly. Naruto immediately looked upwards once more, glaring at the Nara. Look, we aren't stupid. We know you aren't the Kyuubi. You are just the container, and there is a major difference. You are definitely not a demon. You are way too troublesome, but also too nice to be one. Shikamaru-kun's right. And what I said earlier was true as well. You are the savior of Konoha, who keeps it back. If anything, Naruto-kun, knowing about it only makes me respect you more, Hinata said, a wide smile on her face and a slightly reddish blush on her cheeks. Naruto's eyes reddened once again as tears fell. He had finally found out the reason why everyone hated him, and it was overwhelming to him. He, himself, was starting to accept the demon label until his 2 friends spoke up for him. Just like before during that lecture. His fears of being rejected by them were gone. Naruto almost did not care if he ever earned the respect of the village or not right now. For right now, all that mattered was that he had 2 friends who he would protect with his life, 2 friends who knew why he was hated and didn't think anything different of him. Hinata-chan, Shikamaru, thank you. Naruto nearly shouted amongst tears as he charged forth and tackled his friends in a hug. Thank you. Under normal circumstances, Hinata would have flipped out that Naruto had used the chan honorific with her and would be blushing beyond red at the physical contact. She probably would have passed out. Under normal circumstances, Shikamaru would be complaining that he was having trouble breathing in Naruto's hold. He would struggle to get out and complain about his friend being troublesome. These were not normal circumstances, however, the 2 simply returned their friend's hug, giving him a warm smile. It was almost ironic. Mizuki's attempts to divide the group apart ended up bringing them closer to each other than ever before. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled as he stared into his crystal ball. After Naruto and his friends came in and told about Mizuki's plan, he had kept careful observation of the three. He had felt some wariness with allowing 3 newly graduated students from the academy to take on a traitorous Chunin shinobi, but he also felt confidence that they could handle it. Something within him told him that the 3 would be fine. Just like he predicted, the kids were fine. They were now heading towards Konoha, holding onto Mizuki's body, who was going to be delivered to the first Konoha shinobi they could find. The kids succeeded in their mission. More than just succeeded, Hiruzen noted with a chuckle. The 3 genin demonstrated great teamwork with each other. Hinata and Shikamaru went out of their way to save Naruto's life, and the 3 were able to overwhelm Mizuki with great teamwork, such as the strategy utilized with Naruto's clones and Hinata's and Shikamaru's transformations. They complemented each other well and were able to take down a ninja with more skill than them. The Sandaime was also pleased when he realized that Hinata and Shikamaru did not treat Naruto differently when Mizuki revealed the news of the Kyuubi. Sarutobi, although a rather smart man with great foresight, failed to predict that Mizuki would reveal the information about the demon to the kids in desperation. For a few seconds, the old man was rather nervous and was tempted to head out there himself to end the man's life before any damage was done. Thankfully, Hinata and Shikamaru took the news very well and actually praised Naruto for being able to be the container. They helped Naruto handle the information as well and not let him get overwhelmed by it. They truly went above any expectations. They were perfect. They worked well together, Hiruzen noted with a smile. They really should be a genin team. The 3 of them together, teamwork like that is so rare to find in kids so young. It could only get better and stronger as they grow older. I can't separate them, Hiruzen thought. Perhaps Shikaku was right after all. The Sandaime sighed. It would mean more paperwork. It would maybe take a little while to explain to anyone who already knew his original plans. Nevertheless, he knew something now and he was going to go by it. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru had great teamwork together and needed to be on the same team. Although, now I have to think of a sensei for them too. Hiruzen realized with a frown as well. Hiruzen started making notes of the jonin available to be a sensei. Kakashi would probably be an excellent choice, due to his love for teamwork. However, the Hokage felt that Kakashi should train Sasuke in order to work with the Sharingan once it becomes activated. Asuma and Kurenai would also be perfect senseis for Shikamaru and Hinata respectively, but not for the other. Asuma's bluntness and his overall behavior would probably intimidate Hinata while Kurenai would not have the patience to effectively train Shikamaru. I suppose none of those 3. The Hokage thought to himself. Who is currently available? Maybe. A knock sounded on his door. A sigh escaped Hiruzen's lips as he shelved his thinking and turned his attention to his door. Yes. Hokage-sama, sorry for coming so late. I have just returned from my mission and I know you wanted my mission report immediately, said the voice from the other side. Now, Hiruzen's eyebrow raised in response. Your mission wasn't critical enough that I'd need a report this late at night. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes widened as an idea came to his mind. An idea started to form into the aged man's mind. An idea that he played over multiple times to make sure how it would work. A smirk then developed on his face. It's perfect. They're perfect for them. Hiruzen chuckled to himself. Well, it's official, I have a sensei now. I mean, if you want me to come back tomorrow, I can. The voice on the other side of the door spoke. Hiruzen could almost imagine the person shrugging. I'll stop by first thing. Actually, why don't you come in now? The Hokage said, shaking his head. I actually have something else we can discuss after your report. The room was quiet for a moment until the doorknob began to shake. The door opened and a single shinobi walked through the doors before taking the seat in front of Hiruzen's desk. What? A loud scream awakened many people living in Konoha. Anyone with good ears could piece out that the scream came from the Hokage's tower. All of them had to wonder though, who could have caused such a scream and why were they screaming? As Yumino Iruka walked to the front of the academy classroom, holding a file with the Genin team assignments, Naruto could not contain his grin. His hand instinctively went up to his forehead protector over and over again, almost verifying if it was real. It's happening. It's finally happening. Naruto grinned. When Iruka finally got to the front, he cleared his throat. The 27 academy students all turned their attention towards him. The Chunin took in a deep breath for a moment before a smile developed on his face. From this day forward, you are all genin of Konoha. As one of your academy teachers, I just want to let you all know how proud I am of you. Iruka admitted to the class with a smile on his face. You've all done excellent in your studies and training. I believe with all my heart that this may be one of the finest classes Konoha has ever produced, and I can't wait to see what extraordinary shinobi you all become. Nearly every student in the classroom smiled at their now former sensei's words. Naruto was grinning more than anyone else, however. Finally, I really am a ninja now. Finally, he thought to himself excitedly. Now, I'm going to start reading off the team assignments. Pay attention carefully, because I will not repeat. Iruka informed everyone. Now, starting with Team 1. Everyone tried hard to pay attention to Iruka's words. It proved too difficult, however, to listen to every name that was called. Everyone seemed to only notice when their name was called or when their friends were called. Now, Team 3. Iruka said as he shuffled some papers in his hands. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto lifted his head up in response to his name. Hyuga Hinata. The Chunin continued. Yes. Of all the people I could get, I got Hinata. Naruto cheered inwardly, grinning even larger. I at least got one of my friends on my team. Hinata's thoughts were less coherent, but even more excited. Naruto-kun and I are on the same team. Naruto-kun and I are on the same team. He's on my team. Her rather loud, repetitive thoughts were a strong contrast to her outward reaction, which was merely a silent, but large, smile and a red blush. And Nara Shikamaru. Iruka concluded. The Nara blinked. Huh. Fuck yeah. Naruto couldn't hold in his thoughts any longer. The top 3 shinobi here. We are so going to kick SS. Naruto, you idiot, shut up. Sakura hissed. Some of us are trying to concentrate here. Naruto barely even registered her words, he was just too happy to care about anything else. He was on a team with Hinata and Shikamaru. This was everything he had hoped for. Hinata, too, was pleased at this revelation. Although she was still more excited about being partnered up with Naruto, having Shikamaru as the third member felt like an amazing bonus. He became a great and important friend to her and their friendship was growing each day. If nothing else, she knew that their third member would be something she could interact well with, and not be someone who would put neither herself nor Naruto down. I could have sworn they would have put me on a team with Choji and Ino. Our parents' teamwork was legendary, and I know my dad and Ino's dad at the very least mentioned talking to the Hokage about this. What prompted this? Shikamaru brought his right hand to his chin in thought. Maybe the incident with Mizuki. Maybe we impressed him and he felt we should stay a team. That's. His thoughts came to a halt as he felt an arm around his neck. He blinked as he turned to face Naruto, who had gotten out of his seat and gone over to hug his friend. Hey, you excited too, huh? He asked. We're gonna be the most badass team of all time, you know. I mean, Naruto. Iruka's shout interrupted Shikamaru. For the last time, please sit down and remain quiet. Naruto grumbled to himself as he went back to his chair. Despite the reprimand, though, he still had a grin on his face. Hinata, too, was still smiling. Shikamaru's eyes focused on both of his newly assigned teammates for a moment before he turned back to the front of the classroom, a smirk forming on his lips. Well, whatever. Being with them should still be pretty fun. He noted. When the classroom got quiet again, Iruka continued reading off names, moving faster through the next 3 teams without much event. Team 7, Inuzuka Kiba, Haruno Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke. He read. Team 8, hell yeah, hell no. Sakura's and Ino's simultaneous shouts caused everyone to turn their attention towards them. Sasuke's eye twitched momentarily in response to the noise, but that was his only noticeable reaction to the team assignment. You got to be fucking kidding me. I got to work with that jackass. Kiba groaned as he placed his head on his desk. And Sakura would be fine by herself, but with Sasuke. This sucks. Akamaru whined in sympathy as the Ninken jumped off his spot on Kiba's hoodie onto the desk and gave his partner a gentle lick to his face. The tension began to ease in the Inuzuka's body language, but he still laid down, unable to look up. After another lecture from Iruka about interrupting him, resulting in a sheepish look from Sakura and a deep scowl from Ino, the classroom quieted down as Iruka went to the end of his list. And finally, Team 10, Yamanaka Ino, Akamichi Choji, and Aburame Shino. He stated, not only do I get separated from Sasuke-kun, but you're putting me with Food Boy and Bug Boy too. Ino, once again, shouted. That's not fair. Stop shouting. You haven't been dismissed yet. Iruka, for the 3rd time, shouted, his eyes twitching so badly that they threatened to escape his head entirely. This time, Ino had the decency to look a little bashful about her outburst. The Yamanaka huffed to herself, turning to look outside the classroom window. That's got to be rough. Shikamaru mumbled as he turned to face Choji. Choji gave his friend a sad smile. I'm not going to lie. A little jealous of you all. Hinata's smile immediately faded as she bowed her head. I'm sorry, Choji-kun. Yeah, same. I really wish we could have just been a 4-man squad. Naruto noted, rubbing the back of his head as a frown crept onto his face as well. You all don't need to be sorry. The Akamichi said with a sigh. He was quiet for a moment as he reached into his bag of chips and pulled out a handful. After quickly eating them, a small smile developed on his lips. You know, I don't know Shino very well, so maybe he's good to be with. And while Ino says things like that, well, our dads are best friends, so maybe we'll get closer. I'm sure they'll be good to work with. Hinata nodded her head in agreement. Yeah, at least Shino should be. He's supposed to be super smart, right? Naruto noted before he turned to look at Shikamaru. Almost as smart as you, right? The Nara shrugged his shoulders in response before he focused on his best friend. You want to meet up after all of this? Cloud watching or something? Discuss how the team things go? He asked. Choji's smile widened a little bit more as he nodded his head in agreement, which in turn caused Shikamaru to smirk back, the two now formally affirming that their friendship will not end here. A few more moments passed while Iruka waited for the class to fully quiet down. With the Chunin now calmed down from his previous shouting sessions, a small smile developed on his lips as he turned to address the graduates. Now that you all know your teams, you are free to take an hour break for lunch. You will come back here to meet up with your Jonin sensei, in which case you will be under their care. He noted. So, for the last time, coming from me at least, you all are dismissed. Don't leave just yet, you little brats. Just as the students were all about to leave the room, they were stopped by a rather loud, powerful voice that was seemingly being amplified via chakra. Before anyone could ask about who was speaking, a black banner flew through one of the academy windows. When the banner reached the center of the room, a figure jumped out from behind it and threw kunai at its edges, pinning it to both the floor and the ceiling. The entire banner could now be seen, and the words, "the sexiest and strongest sensei in all of Konoha," were visible to all. Now standing directly in front of the banner was a purple-haired woman who tied her hair up in a spiky ponytail. She was wearing a large tan coat over mesh armor that did little to hide her figure and an orange skirt. She wore a pair of shin guards and also had a pendant worn around her neck. You're all looking at the sensei to Team 3, Mitarashi Anko. The woman introduced herself to everyone, a large, almost insane grin on her face. Now, Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Hinata, and Nara Shikamaru. We will begin our meeting and discuss protocol. Let's go. The room fell into silence. Nearly every student was gawking at the woman standing in front of them in surprise, annoyance, or fear. Hinata couldn't help but fall in the last category. That's our sensei. Oh dear. Naruto, in contrast, was probably the only person in the room staring at her in amazement. She's our teacher, huh? That entrance was so cool. This is going to rock. Shikamaru's thoughts were extremely simple compared to everyone else. She's troublesome. Very, very troublesome. A sigh escaped his lips. This is gonna suck. Anko-san, right? Uruka spoke up, causing the woman to turn to face him. You, do realize that the genin are allowed a lunch break, right? The meeting with their sensei isn't until an hour from now after that is over. The woman immediately began to sweat in response. Well, you see, I decided I was going to take my kids out to lunch instead. It would kill two birds with one stone, their lunch break and our meeting. And it would be a good way to get to know them. After all, it's the duty of the sensei to take care of their kids and shit, so what better way to start than by taking care of their meals? Am I right? She asked with a laugh as she rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Right. This only caused Shikamaru to sigh again. Oh god, and she's just like Naruto. Very well, Uruka mumbled before clearing his throat. Alright then. Team 3, you'll report to your Jonin sensei directly. The rest of you, be back here in 1 hour. Anko sighed in relief, feeling as if she nailed her excuse, before turning her attention towards her students. Alright brats, follow me. Lunch is waiting. With those words, she proceeded to run over to the window that she had broken and jumped right out. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru rushed over to the broken window as well and looked down, seeing their sensei on her feet, brushing off some dust on her coat. She then looked back up, making eye contact with the trio. I'm not gonna wait all day. Get your asses down here. She shouted. Don't have to tell me twice. Naruto said with a grin as he jumped out of the window as well. Wait for us, Naruto-kun. Hinata shouted as she followed him out the window. Shikamaru blinked for a second as he wrestled with the idea of just ignoring whatever happened and going home. Unfortunately, he felt as if his mother would probably slap him for skipping on his first real day as a genin. This is such a drag. It's way too early for this shit. He grumbled as he finally followed his teammates and jumped out the window. Wait, this is supposed to be lunch. Naruto nearly shouted. Once the trio of genin had caught up to their sensei, Mitarashi Anko dragged them over to a food stand of her choosing, a sweets and dango shop called Dangoya. Shortly after arriving and getting seats, the three genin quickly realized there was nothing but desserts on the menu. The worker took Anko's order and the genin, all feeling out of their depth, simply placed the same order as her. I actually haven't ever had dango before. Hinata admitted. Same, but it's just a treat, isn't it? It's not supposed to be a meal or anything. Naruto stated, crossing his arms. Oi sensei. Why take us somewhere like this for lunch? The prices also weren't really cheap either, so this can't be a money thing. Shikamaru added, rolling his eyes slightly. So what gives? I love how this place just smells like dango all day. Anko sighed in contentment, not even registering her students' complaints. Sensei? Hinata asked. I think the menu's a little bigger too. I have to try some of newer options too. A little bit of drool began to come out of the side her lips. God, I hate when missions take me away from here, but the first order after coming back is just so worth it. Hey, sensei. Naruto shouted. The blonde's loud voice was enough to snap her away from her thoughts. Anko shook her head for a second and rubbed away the drool from her lips before turning to face her students. No need to shout. I'm right here. She hissed. Now what do you want? What do we want? Shikamaru blinked in response. Shouldn't we be going over team protocol or something? It's what you said we'd be doing when you picked us up. Yeah, but I was gonna do that after we eat. Anko abruptly stopped her thought as she began to think about the time. She shrugged her shoulders. I guess it's fine. By the time we finish it, we'll have our plates. Okay. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. So, what do we do? Well, team introductions would probably be a great start. She stated. We already know each other. Shikamaru replied with a sigh. Very well, I might add. Yeah, and I don't know shit about you all other than what Iruka would tell me. The purple-haired woman rolled her eyes. Introduce yourselves to me then. Tell me about yourselves. What do you want to know sensei? Hinata asked. Anko immediately brought her hands together and stared into Hinata's eyes. Your life story. Every detail. Don't lie to me about anything in it. I hate liars. Eep. The Hyuga shuddered in response, nearly falling out of her seat. Ha. Ha 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 ha. Anko immediately started to laugh in response as she shook her head. Nah, I'm fucking with you. Just tell me the basics. Name, things you like and dislike, hobbies, dreams. The general icebreaker shit. She finally stopped laughing and, while her gaze softened, she still remained focused on the girl. How about you go first? Oh okay. Hinata took in a deep breath as she began to poke her index fingers together. My name is Hyuga Hinata. I like spending tea time with my friends. I also like cinnamon rolls. I dislike people who are rude to others, and some of my clan's traditions. My hobbies are tea training and spending time with my friends and flower pressing. She paused for a moment. My dream, well, I guess I wouldn't mind having a family one day. She began to blush heavily as she took a glance towards Naruto's direction, who seemingly did not notice. She took in another deep breath before she turned her head away and the blush began to fade. But before that, I want to be a strong clan head and ninja tea that can fix the problems in the Hyuga clan. Yup, that report was right. She's got a crush on the Kyuubi boy. Cute. Anko chuckled to herself. But wants to change things in her clan, huh? She's definitely not a strong-willed type of person, so that's a pretty challenging and remarkable girl for her. Well, thanks a lot Stutters-chan. Anko said, smiling. Hinata blinked in response. Stutters-chan. You were stuttering really badly, so that's what I'm going to call you from now on until you fix that. She explained, her smile not faltering. Fix it. Hinata's eyes widened. Hey, don't make fun of Hinata-chan. She's just probably intimidated by how weird you are. Naruto shouted at the woman, defending his friend. Ah, be quiet Whiskers. Anko rolled her eyes. If you wanna talk so much, why don't you introduce yourself? Whiskers. Naruto repeated the name with a scowl. Don't you know our names? I do, but I like giving nicknames, especially to little bratty genin who don't follow orders. She replied with a smirk. So, your turn Whiskers. His scowl deepened for a moment before he sighed. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. I like spending time with my friends, training with the Nara clan, and learning new jutsu. I also like ramen, especially miso ramen. I hate the time it takes for ramen to cool down and arrogant bastards who think they are better than everyone else like that bastard, Sasuke. Naruto said. My hobbies are training, pranking people, and gardening. And my dream is to become the greatest Hokage. That way I can earn the people's respect in this village and not be looked down on like I'm something else. Earn the people's respect, huh? That's probably going to be difficult. Anko noted, resisting the urge to frown. But I guess there's no harm in dreaming big, and this kid's clearly got high aspirations. Hokage, huh? Well, nice to meet you officially, Whiskers. She stated. Naruto's eye twitched in response, but before he could shout back, she turned her attention to the last student. And now, you. Shikamaru's only response was to sigh. Anko looked at him for nearly a minute, waiting for him to say anything, before he finally rolled his eyes and began to speak. Name's Nara Shikamaru, he said. I like being with my friends and doing things that don't require much effort. I don't like doing most things and things I find troublesome. Hobbies are cloud watching, stargazing, playing shogi, and sleeping. My dream is to become an average ninja and have a wife that's neither pretty nor ugly and have 2 kids, a daughter and a son. I'll retire when my children become successful shinobi of their own and live the rest of my days playing shogi and watching clouds until the day I die, before my wife. All Anko could do was blink in response. She stayed in silent thought for nearly 2 minutes, processing her feelings on that answer, before she decided to simply glare at the boy. Lazy SS, she said. The Nara blinked in response. What? You complained about doing this intro for me, you hate doing things with effort, and you seem to have gone out of your way to have the most basic dream imaginable. Because thinking of something more interesting would have required work, wouldn't it? She scoffed. You're a lazy SS, thus you are now lazy SS. Immediately, all of Naruto's and Hinata's bad feelings about their own nicknames went away. The Uzumaki was laughing extremely loudly and nearly fell out of his seat at the cart. Hinata, meanwhile, was trying her hardest to contain her own laughter to not offend Shikamaru. Unfortunately, she couldn't fully contain it and a single giggle escaped her lips. What a pain. Shikamaru scowled. All of you. Well, regardless of that, thanks for sharing. Now, since you all introduced yourselves, it's only fair I do the same. Listen well, brats. Anko started as she brought her right hand to her chest. I'm Mitarashi Anko. I'm a Tokubetsu Jonin and serve as the second in command in the Torture and Investigation Department. I like dango, tea, sake, traveling, training, and working at the tea department. I dislike spicy foods and I hate people who take things too seriously. A scowl then formed on her face. I also hate a certain snake I've met in my life. Her students immediately blinked in response. The moment snake escaped Anko's words, a large amount of killing intent began to leak out of her body, paralyzing them. A few seconds passed by in the painful silence before the killing intent dropped and their sensei's mood went back to normal. My hobbies include hosting tea ceremonies, training my SS off, and torturing detainees. She said. In my dream, well, I have 3 actually. First is to kill that snake I mentioned. Second is to make sure I can keep my friends safe and protected. And third is just simply enjoy life. That, I agree. Hinata said with a smile, focusing on the end of her sensei's speech. I also want to keep my friends safe. If your hobby is training your SS off, then we'll get along just fine, Anko-sensei. Naruto added, a grin forming on his face. Are we all just going to gloss over the killing intent from a moment ago? Shikamaru asked, looking at his teammates with a confused look. Also the fact that she said, torturing, was a hobby of hers. Well, now that we know each other, let's get straight to the business part. The purple-haired woman stated. And we're just going to ignore all of that. Cool. The Nara sighed. Anyway, let's just get the worst part over with this. You 3 technically aren't genin. Anko said. What? That makes no sense. Naruto shouted. We passed the stupid test, so that makes us genin. Anko snorted in response. That test is bullshit. It's like a pre-test to make sure you guys are good enough to be genin. Basically, tomorrow you all have to take another test that has a 33% pass rate. Fail and get sent back to the academy. Are you serious? Hinata asked. Dead serious. The Tokubetsu Jonin replied. The 3 genin all grew silent as their own thoughts began to race. Shikamaru was groaning about the thought of another test, Hinata was worried about failing and disappointing her father, and Naruto was scared of not being able to become a genin. Anko seemed completely oblivious to her students' frustrations. As soon as she informed them of the second test, the attendant finally came back with their plates of dango. Immediately, Her drool returned as she grabbed the first serving of dango on her own plate. Food's here. Yes. She shouted in joy as the plates were put on the table. Let's leave the test discussion until after we finish lunch. The purple-haired woman did not wait for her students to respond and began scarfing down her dango. The three students all blinked in response before they all quietly reached for their own portions, their minds too focused on her earlier words to properly communicate. When lunch was over, Anko told the students to meet her at Training Ground 17 tomorrow at 8 o'clock for their second exam. After that, she left for the Konoha tea department to get to some assigned work. A couple of screaming victims later, she hurried over to a nearby bar alongside her friend and boss, Morino Ibiki. The two did not speak until they placed their order and continued to remain quiet until the first round of drinks came out. Both immediately reached for their newly brought cups of beer and chugged the entire thing. They then sighed in relief as the bartender knowingly took the empty cups and proceeded to get their next drinks. God, I needed that. Anko mumbled to herself. One of those days, Ibiki asked. Yup. She sighed, relaxing further into her seat. You too. Today was easy. Too easy. He said. It is obviously in Konoha's best interest for us to gather our information easily, but I need someone who is more of challenge to break. What about that new prisoner? Mizuki, wasn't it? Anko asked. Was he boring to work with? To be determined. He's apparently still unconscious. The medics believe he'll wake up soon and I'll get to work on him, but it's probably going to be another few days. Ibiki sighed. Incidentally, I was told that the reason he's currently knocked out is thanks to the group of brats you have. I heard that too. Anko shrugged her shoulders. The bartender came back over, this time bringing an ornate blue bottle of sake and 2 shot glasses. Anko's eyebrows raised as Ibiki reached for the sake glass and began to pour into her cup first. Thought we were doing another beer round. She noted. What's the occasion? 'Cause that bottle looks way too expensive for just a casual round of drinks. You're forgetting I make more than you. Ibiki reminded. Anko raised her middle finger in response, earning a scoff from the man as he finished pouring her drink and moved on to his own cup. But yes, consider this me treating you as a sort of congratulations on your new assignment as a Jonin sensei. I know your availability to work in tea is going to change drastically, so I wanted to treat you at least once to something more high grade than usual. My, how considerate. Anko snorted in response as she picked up her shot glass. She held it out from her eyes focused on the liquid. Course, that's all assuming I end up passing these brats. They took down a Chunin-ranked shinobi on their own before officially becoming genin. Ibiki reminded as he finished his pour, they're going to pass. Anko hummed for a second as she took her first sip of the cup. You know, no matter how good they supposedly are, I'm the one who decides if they pass. You're not the kind of person who'd fail them on purpose. Ibiki said. You sure about? She asked. 'Cause I definitely do not want to be Jonin babysitter for an indefinite amount of time. Ibiki's eyes narrowed. Then if you do fail them, I'll have severely misjudged your character. Anko's only response was to finish her drink, opting to chug the remaining sake in her cup. She then reached for the bottle and poured herself another drink, doing her best to ignore her friend's glare. She brought the cup back to her lips once more before she finally acknowledged his disapproval and sighed, bringing her drink back to the table. Look, I'm sure they're great kids. The sweetest kids. The ones with the most potential. They'll do great work in a few years. Whatever. She crossed her arms. Just why does it got to be me assigned to them? Seriously. Why me? Anko bit down on her lip hard at thought as she recalled her conversation with the Hokage where he told her that team he chose for her was one that could only flourish under her guidance. Every counterargument went over his head. The fact that she's not good with kids did not matter. The fact that she was only a Tokubetsu Jonin and not a regular Jonin. She wouldn't be the first, according to him. The fact that she did not have the time or motivation to just wait around babysitting Genin for years. Oh, I'm sure they'll be chunin very quickly, was the only response he gave to that. The fact that her only reference for what a Jonin sensei was supposed to be like was her former sensei. The Sandame looked sympathetic in response, but he still brushed it off. Then you know exactly the type of person you do not want to be like. In the end, it all went back to one singular idea he kept repeating. Only you can train these three to their truest potential. Only me. Bullshit. She grumbled. What was that? Ibiki asked. Nothing. Nothing. Anko sighed as she propped herself up to look at her friend in the eye properly. Look, I'm not in the mood for a lecture. I'm just pissy and complaining. I'm not going to intentionally fail the brats, okay? Ibiki nodded his head in approval as he took a sip of his own sake. It was never in my intentions to give you one. But it does seem like you need to work out some of your grievances. Yeah, we'll see. She shrugged her shoulders as she took a sip from her drink as well. Regardless of what happens, you know my door is open should you need to rant. And your job in the tea department is still yours no matter what. He said with a scoff. God knows the headache you'd give me if I tried to replace you. Headache. I'd kill you if you even considered anyone else. Anko said with a smirk. Ibiki's eyebrow raised slightly. Go ahead and try if you'd like. We'll see what happens. Anko's smirk only widened in response, which prompted Ibiki to smirk back as well as he raised his sake cup. Anko raised hers as well as they both took another sip of their drink. The two continued to drink long into the night. Anko could not recall how long. But despite the head-splitting hangover she woke up with the next day, she appreciated Ibiki and the long night of drinking before she dived headfirst into her time as a Jonin sensei. Hinata woke up feeling more anxious than usual. Sleep had done very little in quelling her worries and, to be frank, it was a surprise to her that she was even able to fall asleep last night in the first place. The girl could barely think straight as she got dressed for the day and gathered her belongings and weapons. All she could focus on was the upcoming test. Sensei never said too much about it. Only the time and place of it. I wonder what it could be on, Hinata mumbled to herself as she rushed out of her room. There's nothing we really could be tested on, other than, maybe combat. She bit her lip slightly. We're all taking the same test, right? Does that mean if I fail, then both Naruto-kun and Shikamaru-kun would fail? A shiver went down her spine as she shook her head, pushing those thoughts away. No, I can't let that happen. They need to pass. I need to pass. The Hyuga rushed to the main family compound's dining area and had a brief breakfast before leaving. As she neared the exit to the compound, she passed by her father, who was walking into the building. She stiffened slightly before bowing her head. Gee, good morning, father. Hinata. Hiyashi nodded his head in acknowledgement. You are leaving somewhere. She nodded her head back in response. Yes. I have tea too. Hinata's words died on her lips as she noticed the small frown on her father's face beginning to form. Her hands tightened into fists as she shook her head. Don't stutter, don't stutter. I have go take my secondary test. The one administered by my sensei T to see if I qualify as a genin. She mumbled. Oh yes. Forgive me, it's been some time since my own days as a genin that I forgot about it. Hiyashi noted. His eyes then narrowed. This reminds me, you failed to tell me who your team was composed of. Hinata poked her index fingers together. I'm with Nara Shikamaru and Uzumaki N Naruto. Our sensei is M Mitarashi Anko. Hiyashi's eyebrow rose in response. A random grouping. I was aware she was training with those boys these past few weeks, but are their skill sets compatible? I was under the impression she was supposed to be under Yuhi Kurenai's tutelage in a tracking team. He then frowned again. And the sensei chosen was Orochimaru's former student. Was as Hokage-sama's goal with this team? Father. Hinata spoke. Hiyashi's expression softened at the sound of his daughter's voice. He brought his hands together as he nodded in acknowledgement to his answer. A unique grouping to be sure. Remember that you are a Hyuga and most perform accordingly. He said. Do not disappoint and fail the test. Hinata stiffened in response. She was still for a moment before she nodded her head. Understood. Gee, good day, then. Hiyashi stood still, watching his daughter hurry out of the compound as a sigh escaped his lips, realizing that his words were a lot harsher than he had intended. Hitomi, how were you able to speak so easily with her when you were here? Hinata, meanwhile, felt herself nearly tear up at her father's words and seeming lack of faith. Before any of the tears could fall, though, she took in a deep breath and rubbed at her eyes, brushing them off as she steeled herself. Naruto-kun and Shikamaru-kun are taking it with me. I can't fail. We all need to pass. Her hands tightened once more into fists. I won't let them down. With that thought echoing in her head, the Hyuga picked up her pace as she continued on her way to the meeting spot for the exam. Anko blinked at the sight in front of her before she rubbed her eyes to make sure that she was seeing things correctly. Sure enough, she was not. All three of her genin students had arrived early for the exam. She was not quite exactly sure why she was expecting them to be late. Maybe it was because the Nara seemed overtly lazy to the point of it being ridiculous. Maybe it was also her lack of desire to be a sensei in the first place. Regardless, the three of them were already there and ready for the exam to begin. I'll admit, I'm pleased to see you all give a shit about this. Good on all of you. She stated, her eyes focusing on Shikamaru for a moment, and especially good on you, lazy SS. Maybe there's hope for you yet. Both Naruto and Hinata laughed to themselves in response while Shikamaru scowled. Well, we're here, so are you going to tell us what the exam is already, or not? He asked. I'm going to, don't worry. Anko replied as her eyes moved away from just him to the three genin as a whole. So, just making sure, you all are ready for this time, right? Obviously. Naruto stated. Alrighty then. Anko noted as she began to crack her knuckles. The test is actually going to be really simple. It's just going to be spar. You three against me. A spar? Naruto repeated. So it's a combat training. Hinata said, her body tensing slightly. I knew it. You can call it combat training, yeah. Another word choice you could use is survival training. Anko said as she began to grin. I'm just going to keep coming at all of you until I decide to pass or fail you. I'm obviously not gonna go all out on you all, but I am going to be evaluating your strength and skills during this, so I'm expecting you all to fight at me at 100%, got it? You need to come at me with the intent to kill. To kill. Hinata's eyes widened in response. Anko's grin widened in response. Trust me, if you don't come at me like that, there's a realistic shot I'll be the one to kill you. So, just making sure, you did say, 3-on-1, right? Not individually. Shikamaru asked. Correct. Look, even when I downplay my skills during this battle with you all, you're still going to need to work together to beat me. Otherwise you brats don't stand a chance against me. Anko noted. Now, having said that though, I'm not going to be exclusively grading you all on your teamwork. Majority of the time, these tests are testing the academy students on their teamwork. But I've already been told that you all have good teamwork, so while I want to see you all do some impressive shit together, I'm going to be more focused on just how well you all fight in general and your potential. So, we just got to impress you, huh? Naruto noted as B brought his hands together, his left palm covering his right fist. Easy enough. We'll pass this test in no time. Anko chuckled in response. Well, I admire your bravado, but before we all start I should just give you all some advice. There is definitely something you all will need to in order to pass my test. The blonde tilted his head in response. What's that? Survive. The three genin proceeded to stiffen in place as they felt the world around them completely vanish. The air began to thicken, feeling almost suffocating, as an overwhelming sensation of unease surrounded them. It felt like nothing they had ever experienced. Even the battle against Mizuki did not compare to the feelings they were experiencing right now. In an instant, the air turned to normal though as Anko began to laugh. The tension finally dropped and 3 genin all began to breathe heavily in unison. Oh come on, you all can't get scared that bad from just a little killing intent. That's not even a fraction of what I'm capable of doing, and it's also nothing in comparison to what an actual battlefield is like. She stated. Suddenly, her laughter died down again and her eyes narrowed harshly on the 3 genin. Immediately, they all stiffened in response once again. Consider this my first lesson to you 3, whether you pass this test or not. Anko said. You all will need to get used to fighting despite your opponent's killing intent. You must never succumb to it. Do you understand? The 3 genin were still for a moment as they worked to try and compose their breathing. After a few seconds, all 3 appeared to push past Anko's killing intent and nodded their heads. We understand. Hinata spoke up for the group, causing Anko's eyebrows to raise. We'll not let you beat us that easily. Hey, I'd hope not. A smirk developed on her face as the Tokubetsu Jonin as she brought her right hand to her mouth. So, one last time. You brats ready? This time, Naruto spoke up for the group as he took a step forward. Bring it. Good. Very good. Anko's smirk widened into a grin as she bit at her thumb, causing it to bleed. She then started doing hand signs. Then let's get this over with. Your true graduation exam starts now. Anko immediately slammed her hand down on the ground, causing it to erupt in smoke. All 3 genin pulled out a kunai and stared attentively, waiting for their sensei's first move. When the smoke cleared, to their surprise, Anko was no longer in sight. In her place, a giant camouflage-colored snake was curled up. The second it saw the 3 genin, it hissed and attacked. The giant snake moved faster than the genin could react. It slammed its large tail straight into the stomachs of each genin, sending them backwards and knocking the breath out of them. Damn, that hurt, Naruto hissed in response as he pulled himself up. Well, what were you expecting? We're going up against a Jonin after all, Shikamaru said, still out of breath, as he pulled himself up. He kept his eyes on the approaching snake. We need to be careful, Hinata added, joining her teammates. The snake, seeing that the kids were starting to recover, struck again with its massive tail. This time, however, the genin had the chance to react and disappeared in puffs of smoke, being replaced by logs with the substitution jutsu. They then moved further into the surrounding forest around the training ground, creating distance between them and the snake. As the group placed distance between them and the snake, Hinata brought her hands together and activated her Byakugan. A frown developed on her face. The snake is already after us. It's getting close, she noted. Getting close, but it's not here yet. Naruto said with a grin as he turned to face Shikamaru. You have exploding tags on you, right Shikamaru? Already ahead of you. Shikamaru chuckled as he reached into his bag and pulled out a few tags. I can get these set up for when the snake comes after us. We just need to lead it into the trap and then I'll activate the tags. After that, we just pound on it until it's taken out. We don't have much time before it's here. Hinata warned. Go get the trap set up quickly. Shikamaru nodded his head and the 3 friends came to a halt, standing in the center of a clearing. Shikamaru quickly set up 4 tags on a nearby tree while before jumping behind a separate tree. Naruto and Hinata, meanwhile, remained out in the opening in the clearing as Naruto brought his hands into a hand sign. It's here, Hinata shouted. Shadow clone jutsu. On cue with the snake chagrining into the clearing, smoke filled the area. When it subsided, Naruto and Hinata were now joined by 20 shadow clones. 5 of the clones immediately charged at the snake while the remaining 15 proceeded to place distance, forming a sort of line towards the tree that Shikamaru marked with his tags. The snake immediately rushed into the 5 approaching clones, its head slamming into the first and causing to dissipate instantly while the remaining 4 jumped back, avoiding the attack. They then attempted to jump onto the snake, but the snake turned its body and swung its tail, this time hitting and destroying the clones. Before it could adjust from its position, Hinata, Naruto, and his remaining 15 clones all tossed kunai from their positions at the snake's head. The snake's scales resisted the urge, caused most of the kunai to bounce off, but a few managed to impale themselves into the back of his head. The snake hissed loudly in response before it quickly turned its head back to the genin and charged once again, its mouth opening wide. Both Naruto and Hinata jumped away in time. Naruto's clones attempted to do the same, but 7 of the clones were unable to get away and were subsequently eaten. The snake then turned again to face its prey, but the remainder of the clones quickly jumped back at the snake, each kicking it in its body. The snake hissed loudly as it quickly lifted its body up and slammed it down, crushing the remaining clones and causing them to dissipate. Hinata then jumped towards it, her Byakugan flaring as she landed a palm strike on the snake's stomach. The force of her targeted strike caused the snake to growl back as it was pushed back. As it was moved, though, it slammed its tail back, which collided with Hinata's stomach and sent her flying into a nearby tree. Hinata groaned as she tried to pull herself up from the attack, her back and legs feeling extremely sore. As she steadied herself, her eyes focused on the snake in its new position. More accurately, she noticed how close it was to the marked tree. A smile developed on her face as she raised her hand upwards. "Now, Shikamaru-kun," she shouted. On cue with her shout, the Nara made the necessary hang sign and the tags were ignited. In an instant, the snake was blasted by the force of 4 separate exploding tags. The snake was sent flying backwards further into the forest, crashing into multiple trees before becoming crushed under the debris of wooden branches. The snake hissed in pain as it tried to pull itself, but the pain proved too much. As it continued to try and pull itself out, Naruto proceeded to toss a few more kunai at the snake to take it down for good. The kunai all connected with its tail, causing the snake to hiss even louder before it finally gave up and disappeared in another poof of smoke. "Hell yeah," Naruto shouted as he raised a fist into the air, "we beat her summon." Hinata couldn't help but smile, feeling accomplished from the fight. She pulled herself up from the ground as both she and Shikamaru walked over to the grinning friend. Not bad, brats." All 3 students immediately tensed up as they turned their heads towards tree around the clearing. Anko sat on top of one of the branches, laying down with her hands behind her head. "That guy wasn't a particularly strong and I did tell him to take it easy on you. Still, other than just a few quick licks, you really beat down on the poor guy bad enough that he's probably going to bitch about it to me sometime." Anko said with a chuckle. How long have you been there?" Hinata asked, her hands trembling slightly. "I didn't even see you with my Byakugan." "Didn't see me or didn't notice me? 'Cause I've been here the whole time." The Tokubetsu Jonin replied with a shrug, which caused Hinata's eyes to widen. "Then again, I was suppressing my chakra a decent bit and you were probably more focused on the snake." "Suppose it makes sense." The Hyuga bit her lip in response. "So you've been watching us the whole time. Whatever, it should be you down here testing us and not some summons you have." Naruto noted with a snort. Anko's eye twitched in response, but before she could respond, he continued to speak. "So, how'd we do? Impressed you yet?" "Hardly," she said, yawning. "I just said the snake was going easy on you. Why would that be enough?" A tick mark grew on Naruto's face as he took out another kunai and tossed at his sensei. "Well, then let's see how impressed you are with this." Naruto had expected the woman to block the kunai or dodge it. What he did not expect was her to take the hit. The kunai landed directly in her head. Anko fell off the tree lifelessly, before disappearing in smoke. Naruto blinked in response before his hands tightened into fists. Was that a shadow clone? Makes sense she would know it. It's a Jonin level jutsu, after all. Shikamaru noted. Hinata gasped, her Byakugan pulsating as she now noticed a large chakra presence incoming. "She's here." "Where?" Naruto asked. Hinata's only response was to toss a kunai in the opposite direction that Naruto was facing. The kunai was blocked by a shuriken from that same direction. Does that answer your question? Anko asked in a fake sweet tone as she slowly made her way into the clearing as she extended her left hand outward, hidden shadow snake hands. Snakes shot up from her coat sleeves and were sent forward towards the academy graduates. Before they had time to react, the snakes grabbed onto Naruto and sent him flying towards the Jonin-sensei. Naruto-kun. Hinata's eyes widened as she ran after her crush. Shikamaru followed closely behind. Naruto gasped in pain as the snakes bit harder into his skin as he was being sent towards his sensei. As he approached her, Anko then redirected her attack, sending Naruto straight into a nearby tree. She then charged at the boy, slamming her fist straight into his stomach. He groaned in pain and barely registered the fact that she pulled out a kunai. She then made a small cut on his cheek, eliciting a hiss in response. Give an enemy shinobi the smallest of opportunities and they'll have you in their mercy. You'll end up in a situation a lot worse than this one, and know that you can't make a single mistake even in a weakened state, cause you know you'll die if you do. Anko informed the boy as she licked the blood of the kunai. So, how do you face this situation, Whiskers? He won't be facing this situation alone. Anko turned away from Naruto's body, causing him to fall to the ground, as she came face to face with Hinata, who had her right palm extended. The Tokubetsu Jonin sidestepped, dodging the girl's attack. Hinata then attempted to slam her left palm into her, which once again, Anko evaded. The purple-haired woman then reached out and grabbed the girl by the wrist. Hinata's eyes widened as she tried to pull away, but she could not break her sensei's grip. I admire the fact that you rushed in to save your ally, but that doesn't always cut it in the real world. You can't just rush in blindly to save a friend, cause you may just end up needing to be saved yourself. Anko informed the girl sharply as she tightened her grip on her wrist. Hinata's eyes widened and an involuntary shout escaped her lips as her knees began to buckle. You need to be more careful next time or else you'll both be dead. I was, sensei. Hinata managed to spit out. You should be more careful yourself. Anko was about to reply but was cut off when she lost all feeling in her body. Suddenly, her grip on Hinata's wrist loosened until the girl was finally freed. Anko then felt her body turning until she was able to see the body of Shikamaru, whose shadow was now connected to her own. Hey sensei. He replied. Even though his head was turned so that she could see not him, Anko knew the boy had a smug grin on his face. I'll give you guys this, I didn't expect that. I wasn't really expecting you to actually try and trap me in your shadow while Stutters-chan was attacking me. Didn't know you could make the effort. Anko admitted, slightly teasing the boy in her praise. Her tone of voice then took a slightly mischievous and sadistic twist. But, you do know that I have enough chakra that I can easily break from your control, right? And something tells me that unlike Whiskers and Stutters-chan, if I try and fight you head-on, you'll stay down after your beatdown. I'm aware. However, I didn't really intend on trapping you for too long. Only to stall you, Shikamaru told her, his grin still on his face. Stall? What? Anko immediately broke Shikamaru's hold on her through overpowering it with her chakra. She was about to start preparing for an attack, but she was too late. Naruto immediately pounced on her. He slammed her body down hard to the ground and delivered a punch to the face. Anko hissed in pain slightly, but Naruto's only response was to bring a kunai to her neck, the edge of the blade touching her skin. Give the enemy any opportunity and they'll have you at their mercy. Isn't that right, sensei? Naruto asked her, taunting her with the words she used on him. So, the two others were really just distracting me so that he could recover and actually land a pretty damn good hit on me. Not too bad. I see the Mizuki thing wasn't just dumb luck, they work well together and could do some serious damage if trained more. Anko noted. That's right, Whiskers. However, I did ask how you would respond to that situation, didn't I? Well, this is how I would. She replied aloud before disappearing in a poof of smoke, replaced by a log. Hey, I figured as much. Naruto mumbled with a smirk. He turned to Shikamaru, who was grinning in response back as he made a hand sign. Anko was sitting in a nearby tree branch after she used the substitution jutsu. She was watching the three kids, wondering exactly what they were doing. Why are they just standing still? Shouldn't they be flustered or shit? Trying to prepare for an attack? Or maybe hunting me? Why are they just standing still? Anko thought in confusion, still watching her students. She was finally about to give up wondering and just charge at them when she noticed Shikamaru make a hand sign. All of a sudden, she noticed a noise coming from her coat's pocket. She reached in and pulled a kunai out, a kunai with an explosive tag on it. The explosive tag was in the process of activating. Ah, so when Whiskers was recovering while Stutter's Chan attacked me, he got an explosive tag from Lazy SS. He then put it on a kunai and slipped into my pocket when he had me on the ground. Clever son of a bitch. Anko thought, impressed. And I didn't even think they'd be capable of sneaking something like this by me. Anko quickly tossed the kunai before it could explode, but she was a little too slow in her getaway. When the explosion went off, she still managed to get hit by the blast, burning a part of her coat. That's another hit they got on me. I may not be giving near my full strength at all on them, but that's damn impressive. Even when going easy, I should still be too much of a match for most genin. They really will end up being something special if someone puts some time into them. She noted. A chill ran down her spine as the thought echoed in her head, I'm that someone. I really am gonna have to pass them. The Tokubetsu Jonin soon reappeared in front of the three kids. Naruto and Hinata, still recovering from her attacks on them, tensed up at the sight of her. Shikamaru, meanwhile, pulled out a kunai and took up position in front of them, prepared to lead for this next phase. We're ready for whatever else you have planned. Shikamaru said. Is that a challenge? Anko snorted in response. Believe me, I haven't even shown a fraction of what I can do. After finishing her sentence, Anko glared at the three academy graduates, releasing the same amount of killing intent that she had at the beginning of the test, the same amount that had kept the three frozen in place for a moment. This time, however, none of the three appeared to be phased. They were all still in position, waiting for her to make her move. A few more seconds passed by before Anko finally released the killing intent. A chuckle escaped her lips as she brought both her hands to the back of her head. But yeah, anything else at this point would be a waste of time. You all did a lot better than I expected, to be honest, and I guess I'm not so petty to fail a couple of talented brats like you just 'cause I want to. Anko stated. So, yeah. You all pass. Hell yeah, Naruto shouted. Filled with adrenaline, the boy seemed to momentarily forget any exhaustion or injuries from his fight and started to jump up and down, unable to stand still. His excitement was so infectious that even Hinata appeared to be jumping in place in excitement. Shikamaru, while calmer than his other two friends, was still equally as proud as he grinned at the news. From now on, Team 3 is official. You all are officially genin in the eyes of the village, but more importantly, you're my team. Anko stated. And because of that, that means it's my responsibility to whip you all into shape. So you three better be prepared, because I'm going to make you all the greatest damn shinobi this village has ever seen. Anko's words only made Naruto even more ecstatic as he brought his hands together. We're going to make you proud, Anko-sensei. Alright. Hinata nodded her head, a sigh of relief escaping her lips. We all managed to pass. I didn't end up letting them down. Thank goodness. We're excited to be here. Together. Shikamaru added. Their mood was infectious enough that Anko, despite her own previous misgivings, was now grinning in pride for the three. She quickly shook her head as she turned away from the kids. Anyway, the test was going to be our only assignment today, so consider yourselves dismissed. This training ground is going to be our designated meeting spot, so report back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock again, then we'll get into our routine from there. She stated. Job well done, guys. Go celebrate or some shit. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru all bowed in response, thanked their sensei, and left together. Anko assumed they most likely were going to go celebrate together, but it did not really matter what. It was not her concern what her students did during their off time. My students, huh? Anko's mind repeated the word choice, a sigh escaping her lips. Admittedly, this level of anxiousness was something she was not particularly used to, and she did not like it. A part of her was concerned if it was even the right choice for her to make. After all, what could she really accomplish as a Jonin sensei? Guess I gotta figure it out as I go. Maybe the Hokage can give me some ideas if I bother him. After all, he's the one who did dump the responsibility onto me. She told herself with a chuckle. She stood still for a moment as she began to envision what exactly she would be able to do for her students, but before she could let her thoughts develop, she felt a familiar presence nearby. She turned to one of the nearby trees and looked up towards its branches. Well, my brats are all gone. You can come out and stop hiding, Anko stated with a smirk on her face. On cue with her words, a woman with long black hair and red eyes jumped out of the tree. She wore a white and red tight-fitting armor that resembled a blouse and had bandages over her hands. The woman greeted Anko with a wave and walked up to her. She responded back with a wave of her own. You've been there for a while, Kurenai. Don't you have your own kids to fail? Should you really be wasting too much time with me? The Tokubetsu Jonin asked with a laugh. Already did. The woman, Kurenai, sighed. I had a team already planned out that I had assumed was going to pass, but then Hokage-sama felt the need to change up my request. Instead, I got a different team of kids that should never have passed the Academy's initial graduation test, let alone the true one. Well, we all know the Academy's standards aren't shit. That's why they have this second test anyway. Anko replied with a snort. You'd think they'd try and just make the Academy's test more difficult, but whatever. True. Perhaps a discussion to have with Hokage-sama and the Academy directors for another day. Kurenai noted. A small smirk then formed on her face. You know, I really am surprised that you passed your team. It feels odd for you. Yeah, Anko admitted. Still not sure if I'm fully comfortable with it, but I guess this is the way it's going to be. I just need to figure out what it means to be a good sensei. Oh, I have no doubt in my mind that you'll excel there. I think you underestimate your skill and your character. I'm sure you will do a great job with them and help all of them develop their skills to their full potential. Kurenai noted. Hey, thanks. A smile developed on Anko's face. Don't know if I believe that, but I probably needed to hear that. I'm sure you do, and I'll be here to say it again if you need. The black-haired woman replied. Her smirk then proceeded to widen. However, that wasn't why I was surprised you passed the team. I'm just surprised you willingly are putting yourself in this scenario, you know. Huh. Anko's smile disappeared immediately. Kurenai proceeded to laugh in response, which only caused Anko to scowl back at her. What the hell do you mean? Kurenai was quiet for a moment as she tried to compose herself. Once her laughter finally faded, she continued to stare at her friend with the same shit-eating grin on her face. Well, you just took up a team. A team of new genin. A team of genin who must start completely fresh in terms of their standing in the village. So, hope you have fun doing D-rank missions for a while. Kurenai informed her friend cheerfully before making a hand sign and disappearing with a flicker. Anko blinked. She blinked twice. Memories started to fill her mind. Horrible memories from her time as a genin. All those hours, those boring hours. The painting, the babysitting, the grocery shopping, the cat. That damn cat. Anko's mind replayed various mental images of menial tasks around the image. The image of her chasing after a cat replayed multiple times. Wait, that cat's still alive, isn't it? It's still here. It was too much for the Tokubetsu Jonin. She lost her balance and fell to the ground, her eyes still filled with shock. No more meaningful missions. Less time for torture. No more fun. More lame chores. More hours of boredom. More time with that damn cat. Anko fumed within her head.